Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
It's a beautiful time of year. Love is in the air. You can tell. You see people smiling at each other for no reason. This is the time of year where you look over at somebody and it's sunny out, and so they look back at you and you both smile. It's not like December. December, you look at somebody and they look you in the eyes and you can tell that they're like, what? But this is a very sweet time. You see all these people getting married. We're getting into wedding season and stuff. In New York, it seems, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are getting married. And I've never seen a wedding that had this much sleuthing to it. Like, this is genuinely wild. Apparently, they're going to get married at Madison Square Garden, which already implies you have an extensive guest list. That's like the only billionaire wedding I've seen people get excited about, that they like want to know more about. Like Bezos got married around this time that I was here last year, and he was getting married on like a super yacht, and people were like, oh, I hope it doesn't... Do you know what I mean? Like, details about the wedding kept coming out, and they were like, ooh, it'd be a shame if it, I mean, I'm not gonna do anything, but maybe God will, do what's right. And apparently they're building a castle inside Madison Square Garden. Yeah, apparently they're gonna build a castle for the wedding to be in Madison Square Garden. I've never planned a wedding. But if I went to anybody, they were like, I want a castle, I'd be like, ooh, this might be a touch much. You know what I mean? Because people forget Taylor Swift's like a billionaire because she doesn't give the billionaire vibes. Usually a billionaire is like off-putting to look at. I'm just speaking on the most famous billionaires that we have. Like the billionaires that if I say their name, you know them, you wouldn't just be surprised they were getting married. You would be like, someone lets you touch them? That's the general vibe. Like if I was like, oh, Elon's getting married at Madison Square Garden, you're like, ugh, okay, sure, right? But then also thinking about, like, when you look at Elon, you don't look at someone, I don't know, it's surprising he has children is what I'll say. That's the nicest way to put what I clearly mean. It is an odd reality to live in where that man has several children by different women. Like, that's also insane. But yeah, there's a level of fame that I imagine must be somewhat difficult. And I know people go like, oh, boo-hoo, they're famous and they're rich. And it's like, sure, but I think that there can be times where you would like to just have a regular moment, and that becomes impossible because you reach a level of fame where you're known all over the world. And with being known all over the world, most people are normal people that'll just be maybe a little bit excited if they see you, or they'll just notice that they saw you, right? Like there are a lot of people who would say, oh, you know what's crazy? I think I saw Taylor Swift leaving this hotel, whatever. And then they move on with their lives. But then with that sort of attention comes an economy of people who are not normal, who are excited to exploit you, or who are trying to engage with you in some way to get some of that attention off of you and onto them, or to just sell the amount of attention that they got from you, right? I don't really have these problems, and I'm not saying that I want them at all, Like I did Jimmy Kimmel's show a while back, and I was there the same night as J-Lo. Same night as J-Lo. And so I was like, oh, I might meet J-Lo. That'd be crazy, And I don't know much of J-Lo's like music or movies, or I've seen some of all of it. You know, like you know what I mean? Like I'm not like a J-Lo head like that. Like I'm not like, oh, it's happening. I'm more just like, oh, that'd be really cool if we passed by in the hallway and I could be like, hey, I like the one where you were with Matthew McConaughey. That was fire. You know. But the thing about it is, like, you show up, and when I showed up to Kimmel's studio, I was in a car, and there were paparazzi there, and then there were also just fans of the show and of J-Lo, I'm assuming, there with like things for J-Lo to sign and stuff, and people were taking pictures. And I get out of the car, and they definitely thought, I didn't tell them this, but they definitely thought I was gonna be J-Lo. They were positive I was about to be J-Lo. They could just feel it in their bones, this must be J-Lo's car. And so then I open the door and I get out, and to hear a crowd in unison go, oh! It definitely lets you know how famous you actually are. But so many people are getting married this summer. You even saw that couple. You saw that couple climb the Empire State Building. What is it with New York right now? What is in the water? This couple climbed to the top of the Empire State Building. And like the actual top, like the antenna, like where it ends. The most dangerous part to climb is what they climbed. I just want to stress this. So they climbed the Empire State Building and they let this flag loose. And the flag said, when the power of love beats the love of power, the world will know peace. And there were like 5, yeah, sure, yeah, you can. There were like 5 minutes there where people were wondering what this was about, because this is not something that happens every day. You may have a flag on you, you may have a message that you want to get out, but climbing the Empire State Building doesn't occur to most people. Activists or not. Even if you suggested it, they'd be like, maybe like a YouTube banner or something. And so then no one really knew what it was about. Some people thought maybe it was some sort of like protest of the administration. Some people thought it was specifically some sort of ICE protest or something. And then they climb back down, not all the way down, just down to the almost top of the top. They climb to right below the antenna, and then one of the climbers proposed to the other climber. And, you know, she clearly said yes, jumping around, hugging and everything. And I wasn't in New York when it happened, but I can gather from social that everyone saw that and went, ugh. Because it quickly went from a potentially ambiguous political statement to like, oh wait, did y'all climb just for everyone to see your proposal? Like some of my friends were so mad. Some of my friends were so mad because they plan on proposing this year. I'm not gonna say which friends, but I have a couple friends plan on proposing this year, and they were like, oh! That's not fair. Because you gotta understand, every proposal that seems even slightly accessible becomes a competition with your proposal. So now there are dudes that are like, I gotta outdo the top of the Empire State Building. Because here's the thing, you can go to what they call the top of the Empire State Building. You can do that on a tour. You just go up in the elevator and they'll give you a tour and they'll be like, hey, here's the history of the building. Isn't this so fascinating? And then you can get to the top. It's not the top, but it's like the observation deck, right? And there have been people who have proposed at the observation deck. And so I can only imagine if there was somebody who got up that morning and was like, visiting New York City, you know? Like, it's a beautiful summer and everything. Sunny outside. I planned something for us, babe. And then she's all excited. She's like, you planned? Yeah, I planned something for us. And then he doesn't even tell her what it is. He's like, just get in the taxi. Let me whisk you away. And then they get to the Empire State Building. She's like, oh, I've always wanted to go. Oh, this is amazing. I've always wanted to do this. And you know, we're from a state that's flat, so we can't. I can't even imagine how high it is up there. And then they start, taking the pictures, because you can take a picture as soon as you get in there that they give you later. It's almost like a ride. And then they take that elevator up to the observation deck. Maybe he even paid extra to go to the top part that they don't tell you about when you go to the top, and just a little extra top, They get that VIP experience, and then they're standing there, and she's like, wow, look, that's Central Park. Look, that's our hotel. It's so low. Look, the sky. Feel like I could touch it. And then he's like, yeah, this is the moment. Because the thing about a proposal that, you want to remember it forever. And maybe those thoughts are going through his head. Like, just when you see how excited she is and how happy he's making her just by having a plan. Just like a single. How happy she is. He's like, yeah, this is it. She's the one. She's absolutely the one for me. I can't believe I got so lucky. And then, he reaches in his pocket. And then he hears a scream. He hears a scream because someone has noticed a couple climbing the antenna. To the top of the tip of the Empire State Building. And he's like, uh-oh, is that a terrorist? Because they were wearing black, they had their faces masked up, that's some terrorism. Okay, well, in case something happens, maybe I should do it now anyway. And then he sees them unfurl that banner, and it says, the power of love beats the love of power, the world will know peace. And he's like, oh, okay, so not terrorism, all right. Wonderful, wonderful. We can remember this moment because we'll be like, hey, remember the time that those two protesters were like, and then we were like, that's us, we love each other more than we love, but we don't have any power. And just as he's about to kneel, he hears another scream because one of the climbers just proposed. He couldn't have thought that they were going to propose when he was going to propose, or else he probably would have been watching them like fall. Come on, it's windy. Yep. I saw the foot slip. Come on, fall. But then that guy kneels down and he sees him propose to her. And he had to be thinking in his head, why couldn't it have just been terrorism? This is... Yeah, my buddy went to propose. He's a little older, and so when he went to get down on that one knee, the hip and the knee clicked at the same time. He was over here. She heard all 6 clicks on the way. my man proposed. And she said yes and knelt down and kissed him and then was jumping for joy. But now he really locked in. The whole rest of the night he was over here sitting on the bar stool like this, like. Oh. I think back to when I moved to Chicago, and when I was in Chicago, I was pretty broke and everything, so I would just go to shows that were as cheap as possible. Like there was this show that was $5 to get in, okay? And the show was like an improv show. It was very fun. It was a really good time. But then we're all sitting, hanging out after the show at the end, and it's a table of us, like 6 people, all strangers. And I didn't know anybody, so I was very happy to try to make some friends and everything. And everyone was just sitting around the table. A couple people were having a drink. And this one woman prompted us. She was like, hey, let's go around the table and tell a story. Everybody will tell a story about your worst ever second date. Because here's the thing. This is what happens, right? You will go on a date, and usually people talk about their bad first dates. Usually it's all like, oh, they showed up and they were, the devil. And so I was like, oh, you weren't the devil in your profile. It feels like you catfished me because you're like a demon, and you didn't say anything about that when we were meeting up or when we were chatting, so. But in this scenario, it was like, what was a date you went on that was good, and then you went on the second date, and that was so bad it made you question reality from the first date. And somehow everyone at the table had a bad second date story. Everyone had a story of like, they were so lovely when we first met, and then the next time I saw them, they were like very rude to the server. They were just like, I couldn't tell if they were in a bad mood or if they were really this person, and they just put on a face for the first time. And then this one woman at the table told us a story so insane that it made me question if I had really lived an interesting life at all. This woman told us a story about first date she went on. They meet up, and he really takes her on the town. He took her to a couple of really nice places in Chicago, like beautiful movie theater, but also the dinner was like this clearly high-priced, like fine dining experience with courses and everything. And he was really interesting to talk to, and they had a lot of the same interests and everything. It was just a wonderful first date. And so he even said to her, he was like, you know what? If I'm being honest with you, after the night that we've had, this is like it for me. Like, I really like you, and I just want you to know that I like you. I don't want you to walk away from this date having any doubt in your mind that I really like you. And she said that was really refreshing to hear because, people can play things close to the chest, or they can worry about getting hurt, and so then they can be coy and everything. Like, he was just saying it. And so a few days later, after some chatting, he asked her on a second date. And this date was going to be, he had planned it all out, it was going to be at his house. And it was going to be at his house like late afternoon, so. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like a 2 a.m., come on over. It was going to be late afternoon at his house. And she shows up and knocks on the door, and he doesn't answer. One of his friends answers, since the whole party. And it's at that point where she's like, oh, maybe he's invited me to like a barbecue, because she can see like people outside in the backyard, like drinking through the glass and stuff, and like a grill going and everything. And so she walks in, and the guy's like, oh, you must be Polly. And she was like, yeah, I'm Polly. And she's like, where's Steven? That's the guy. And she was like, I was here to meet Steven. He's like, yeah, okay. Well, Steven's around here somewhere, but I'll see if I can go find him for you. And so this is her first time at his place. And so she doesn't even know where to go next. And then this woman walks up to her and gives her a big hug, and it's Steven's mom. It's Steven's mom, and and she says as much. She's like, "Oh, it's so lovely to meet you. Steven's told me all about you and everything." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And she said, when she was at the table with us, it was the first time she ever hoped that someone lived with their parents, because then that would at least make meeting the mother so quickly make sense. And she was like, "Oh, let me introduce you to Donald." And so she quickly met his dad right after. And she sees a little setup. There's a grill in the back, and there's a little setup. And she can't quite tell what it is, but there's like 12 chairs and a couple tables near the grill. And I think she's in such disbelief that she can't put it together right away. But basically, Steven, for their second date, planned a wedding. And you have to understand, we're all sitting around the table sharing like bad second date stories. You know, and and plenty of people are like, "Yeah, you know, the second time I met them, they were so rude." I was like, "Is this even the same person?" And then she was like, "Yeah, Because the thing that she opened the story with initially when she was telling us about her worst second date ever was that she got arrested. And so even at this point in the story, I was like, when did you get arrested? Also, as soon as you realized what was happening, why didn't you leave immediately? And she was like, I was so shocked. I didn't know what to do next. And like, he had planned this whole thing, and I was so surprised. And I was like, please don't tell me you stayed in that house to just not be rude. I don't know what we need to do. I don't know as a society what we have to do. Ladies, if someone plans a whole wedding you didn't know about, you're well within your rights to leave that house. This is wild. And then she, you know, she was standing there shocked because not that many people were talking to her, but a couple people were looking, whispering and everything, and she was talking to the parents and stuff. And then finally, the buddy that answered the door comes back, and he's like, "Hey, Steven's upstairs if you want to go talk to him." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I want to go talk to him." She goes up the stairs, knocks on Steven's door, and he's like, "Come in." And when she opens the door, he's holding a dress. And she's like, what is going on? What is happening right now? And he's like, "What? You don't like it? I planned everything." I don't know the point at which you realize you're dealing with someone who is not from this planet. Liking it is not the issue at all. And she was like, "We went on one date." And this man said, "And it was magical." And before you have any sympathy for Steven, in case you were working on some of that, apparently, she said that, you know, she found this out after. That apparently, this dude had been like telling his family about someone, but not giving them enough detail. He had just been hyping up his family around the idea that he was getting married soon. But then he finally went on a date with Polly, and he was like, yep, this is the one. In case you were worried that he was in any way sane. And so then she was like, I can't do this. Like, this is wild. Why would you plan a wedding and not tell me? And I don't know you. I also don't know you. Like, because sometimes people who have lost it will then get you arguing from a platform you shouldn't be standing on. And she's like, I don't even know you enough to marry you. He's like, yes, but I think I love you. And she's like, you said think. And she was like, I can't do this. And he was like, come on, you can't leave. I planned this whole thing. Everyone will be so disappointed. And she was like, okay. And then, you know, rejection's hard. Even when you totally should be rejected by every metric of logic. But then he gets mad. He's like, come on now. I thought that we had something special. You know, I told them so much about you. And she turned and she was like, what? He's like, I told them so much about you, you know, like everything that you told me and more. And she was like, what do you mean more? And he was like, yeah, you know, like after our date, it just, everything went so well. I looked you up online. I was telling everybody about, you know, like. And then this is what she told us. She did push him out the window. And so then that. Just imagine that dude laying there in a stretcher, getting carted off by an ambulance, like, so it's a no? Oh. Yeah. Because it's very difficult to know how much a couple's love is like a performance and how much of it is sincere. And it's not for me to know. I'm not in it with them. But just sometimes, I don't know, you'll be scrolling and you'll see a picture of two people and it's like nice. But then you see a carousel of them that they're all hugging, kissing, everything. It's like, nah, y'all fight. Nah, I can tell. I can tell from the way this picture was taken that one, is not the first take, and two, y'all argued why you were making this carousel. There's no way you have it. Yeah. I even had a conversation once with someone. I was taking a bus, and the bus was delayed. And there's a layer of not personal space, but there's just a layer in your mind of like, I'm in my own little bubble when I'm traveling that breaks once there's something to bemoan together. Like, you could go on a long bus ride and not talk to anybody, but if the bus is delayed for 6 hours, eventually you're gonna turn to somebody and be like, this is ridiculous, and then that might spark a conversation. Huh? My bus was delayed for 10 hours, and so we're all talking to each other and everything, and I had this conversation with someone, and it truly blew my mind. They said that they were coming back from a wedding where the bride did like a run. Yeah, like really jilted the groom right there. And like right there during the like actual holding hands, like the most important part, the part where you're like 99% married. You know the part where it's like almost done. And the reason that she did it was the night before at the bachelor party, the groom was, dancing with his friends, and they had rented out this entire sort of ballroom setup, right? And so he and his friends were making like a big show of the karaoke. So it was like some of them were sitting in the audience, some of them were on stage, but it was like a proper stage. It was like pretty high. And he got really drunk, and then when he was singing and dancing, he tripped and he fell off of the stage onto one of the speakers. And he had knocked out his 4 front teeth. When it comes to teeth, your front are the most important. Your front are the ones that are the main attraction, you know? Like when you see the first 4 teeth, you're like, he has teeth. Like when someone smiles and you see the first 4 teeth, you're like, that no matter the size of the mouth, I can tell teeth are partying in there. And if you're missing the first 4, it throws all others into question. Because here's the thing, 1 missing tooth in the front is an interesting story. 1 missing tooth in the front, it's like, oh, what happened? Like, bar fight? 2 front teeth is clearly an issue. Something happened, but, you know, you get by on personality. 3 missing front teeth is like, ooh, did those just never come in? Because that, once you get to odd numbers, you may want to do something about that. 4 missing front teeth might as well be all your teeth. First 4 teeth cover a lot of surface area of the mouth. And so he knocked out his 4 front teeth. And, you know, it's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding. And so she walked down the aisle, and, you know, she looked beautiful, so he wasn't smiling, he was crying. He was over here tearing up. I'm so lucky, you know. And then she gets up there, and she had heard about the accident. They told her that he fell and he had hurt himself, but he was gonna be okay for the wedding. But she was standing there, you know, just over here, standing, waiting to start her new life with her husband. And then the priest asked the first question, you know, do you take? And he said, I do. But the way his teeth came out and the construction of his mouth, it did have a little whistle to it. It did have a, you know, like, I do, and so she ran. She left. Which is devastating. Her friend was saying, she asked her, like, why do you love him, right? And she was like, yeah, but in that moment, I just couldn't imagine, like, raising kids that didn't have their 4 front teeth and, like... And her friend was like, but he had the teeth. The teeth got knocked out. Why do you think because the teeth came out that the new kids just wouldn't have teeth? That's not how teeth work at all. Actually, I should back up. I forgot to tell you the story that I told about my worst ever second date. One thing, I'm not big on, like, policing how other people say things. But if you're gonna say, don't you hate when, make sure that thing is something that commonly happens. I went on a date, and first date was fine. You know, it was good. We were getting to know each other. I think we were both a little nervous and everything. I can be a bit quiet, and, you know, it was dinner, so we mostly chewed. And so we don't even know enough about each other to know if it's like working or not. So we went on this second date. And on the second date, she was like, don't you hate it when? And then proceeded to tell me a story that I had never heard before or since. She said, don't you hate it when your dad is like leaving for work and then he backs up the car and hits your dog? And then pulls the car forward, gets out, sees they hit the dog, puts the dog in the trunk, and then comes home with a different dog? Ma'am, excuse me? So much has happened in like 3 sentences. So wait. Your dad hit your dog. And sadly, it seems, killed the dog. Then put the dog in the trunk. And then left and went to work. And then came home with a new dog that he wanted you to believe was the dog. And you saw all this play out, and she was like, yeah, I was like, look, you know, sometimes I'd watch him leave if, you know, I was a little kid, and so I'd miss him when he would go to work, and so I watched him out the window, which is how I knew he hit the dog. And I was like, and you said, don't I hate it when, as if that happened to me too, though. As if I've also had that same experience as you, which I think no one has experienced. Like, plenty of people, look, that does happen. Plenty of people have accidentally backed up on a pet or something like that. But then to come home, did he go to work? Like, could he have even gone to work? Because here's the thing, this stuck with me. As soon as she told me the story, that man, there's no way he went to work. He had to immediately gone to every shelter possible to find the right dog that looked the same, and then spend the work day teaching that dog its name. Because if you tell me that the dog named Sparky, and then he hit Sparky, and then he put Sparky in the trunk, and then he left, and then he went ahead and got a new Sparky to bring home that he hopes you haven't been paying too much close attention to, like, the pattern of the fur or anything. If it looks enough like Sparky, if you bring the dog home and the dog doesn't respond to Sparky anymore, you're gonna be perplexed. You're gonna be like, is he losing his hearing or something? And she answered all my questions. She was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe he did. Maybe he went to a shelter instead of work. And then I never thought about that. I never thought about him training the dog all day to learn its name. I was like, wait, what do you mean? He hasn't told you? What, did you ever tell? And she was like, no, he went to all the trouble, so I just acted like it was the same dog. What? She's like, yeah, I just didn't know. I don't know. I didn't know how to call it out. And he already, like, seemed so nervous when he brought Sparky home. I was like, that's not Sparky. Like, that's not even my dog. But I started taking up for the dog. I'm like, no. He did a switch face off on you. It can become Sparky if you want, but that's not Sparky. You just never brought this up. I'm like, nah, I didn't. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it would do any good. And I was like, you didn't, like, tell anyone? You didn't tell your mom or anything? I'm like, no, I was the only one that saw it. So I figured if he could keep a secret, I could keep a secret. And I was like, that's as sweet as it is horrifying. Like, there is a part of me that's like, okay, but then everyone else in the family is left in the dark where they're like, why is our dog suddenly no longer house trained? Like, because I was like, did the new dog act like the old dog? And she was like, no, not really. He actually bit a lot. I was like, wait, no. So you let your family get eaten up by this new dog who doesn't know why. And to be fair, I guess every dog could be like, why are they calling me this name? But you don't even know where this dog came from. Where did he get it? And she's like, yeah, I don't know. I did, you know. But don't you hate when that happens?
Mira.